Now, I know that Astrea, in general, is not afraid to mix it up. And from what I've heard in this particular Best-of-5 series, he decides to go for some crazy build orders. Already a probe is moving out right here in game number 1 on Curious Minds. And as you may have already guessed, in the bottom right-hand corner, playing with the red Protoss probes from the United States of America, we are looking at Astrea's main Nexus. And his opponent with the blue Zerg drones from Germany, we are looking at Lambo's main base. Alright, so what do we have in mind? I don't know what to expect from this series. I don't know what happens. I also don't know who wins, but I do know that apparently Astrea played some crazy strategies. Plural. So, I guess we'll find out. So, pylon going up already right here. At the bottom of the ramp, Lambo is going to go for the third base first? Maybe? No. He was just sending the drone over here a little bit early to make sure that if a probe would move up there to try and block the natural, he could go for one of the third bases. Astrea following this up right now with 2 gateways at the bottom of the ramp. This is probably a full wall off right now, but with the timing right there of the probe, look at that little cheeky move. Astrea is forcing the Overlord to go back in the direction of the ramp to make sure that his opponent scouts a potential cannon rush. This is a build order that we used to see back in like literally 2010. Back when everyone was terrible at the game. This is a build that's very strong. Is this a full wall off, by the way? I think it might just be a full wall off. I don't think there's any space right here for any Zerg units to go through, but honestly, Lambo is going to be completely caught off guard, right? I mean, eventually he's got to get across the map with this OV. In about 15 seconds or so, you'll probably know that something is off, but that's already, yeah, by the time that the first Zealots are being produced. Cybernetics Core is coming up at home. 1 gas here as well, so he's slowly saturating that one. Obviously, this is a 1 base all-in, right? So even if Lambo loses this, okay, he's gonna see that something is off right now. Yeah, even if Lambo is losing the natural here, it doesn't matter all too much as long as he does hold on. Okay, Astrea does start up a pylon here as well, just so he can actually start up a couple of... Ooh, I actually love this. I think he's creating like a bit of a surround right here. He should actually. I thought he was gonna try to trap that set of Zerglings in here. Yeah, he is. Look at that. Kind of beautiful. Anyways, at the same time also canceling what was that, a spike crawler. I think it's actually fine. I think it's actually fine to just give up the natural expo, isn't it? I guess Lambo really doesn't want to, though. Maybe going for a Roach War and a couple of gases is a better option than all of this. I mean, that's 4 Zealots. 4 Zealots are going to have a great time. I mean, so far, really beautiful micro here by the Zerg player, but he is losing quite a few of those drones. Obviously, it's always a gamble. There's one of the shield batteries coming up, which is something I tried mentioning earlier, but I don't think I finished my sentence. Either way, the queens are out right now. Is this not already a little bit too much damage, though? Because, I mean, we're 9 drones down at this point. Astrea can just expand behind this, and if you look at the worker count right here at the bottom of the screen, it's 22 probes versus 10 drones. Maybe eventually he can finish this up. I actually love the addition right here of the Adepts as well. Forcing, at the very least, the queens to go back into the main base. I think you commit. Yeah, 2 Adepts is enough to one-shot workers. And even if the natural does live here eventually, which I doubt, I mean, it probably will stay alive for at least a little while longer. Is this not already too much damage? Astrea, calmly, collectedly, following this up with some more shenanigans at home as well. Probably will just try and create a full wall off. Now, this is a good position for the Lynx, though. That Spine Crawler obviously is going to be able to, well, make sure that a lot of these Protoss units aren't just going to be able to wander up the ramp. But eventually, it looks like all of the Protoss units inside of the bases of the Zerg have been dealt with. But Lambo really needs to step his foot on the gas right now when it comes to the drone count. Because this is not looking so hot. Astrea even following it up with an extra pylon here just to make sure that they can make a wall up here in case he needs to. It looks like one of the Adepts there goes down as well. And eventually, the Zerg will break out of this. Now, obviously, Astrea is going to be in the darkness here for a little while as well. Ooh. What are we doing? PP, test, go, go. Go, go. All right. Obviously, ooh, I actually like the sentry too. He can force field, I guess, to try and slow this down and maybe recall the units that are out here. Anyways, Astrea doesn't know at this point what the follow-up from Lambo is going to be, right? For all he knows, this could already be like a lair coming up right now inside of the main base. It could be a Nidus Worm. It could be a Roach Ravager push. It could be a Zergling Baneling bust. It could be a variety of things. At this point, though, we obviously know that it's just going to be a bunch of drones, apparently, and Lambo's trying to economically play this one out. But Astrea needs to be very careful. Yeah, I actually really like the Phoenix. What's it called? The Sentry. I thought he was going to try and force field this Zerg player in there for a little while longer. But he was just trying to produce one Sentry to make sure that he could get a Phoenix Scout over here as well. This is huge. This Scout would tell him pretty much everything. All of this tells me, though, that this is a build order that Astrea has actually practiced. It seems like a build that... yeah, it's very well thought out. And actually, all things considered right now, Lambo is looking pretty good as far as the worker count goes. Obviously, Zerg has that wonderful larva mechanic, right? That allow you to, yeah, produce a lot of those drones out of those larvae very quickly. Robo Bay coming up already for Astrea. I would have assumed a Stargate follow-up to try and, like, get a couple of Void Rays out to make sure you don't die to anything stupid. Like, for example, a Roach Push, but... Sentry's trying to tickle the units to death here. What's going on? Tickle him! Yeah! I mean, you can go for a push. If we're gonna go full 2010 strategies, right? You can go for a push where you bring the Prism over here with a couple of sentries in it, and then you, like, force field the opponent's ramp while warping in unit. That was a build that we used to play back in the day, too. Anyways, Roach Warren eventually does come up. Lambo is going for the third base. He is going for a good bit of creep spread as well. Honestly, this is looking... quite a bit better right now for Lambo than I thought it would have at this stage in the game. Judging by how many workers he lost. I mean, how many was that again? Yeah, 9. I mean, 9 doesn't seem very significant, but obviously that was like most of his economy at the time, right? I mean, it was also a lot of drones were in the battle, so he was also not really mining a whole lot there for some time. Love this little move though from Astrea once again. Look at this little hit squad. An observer, 2 adepts. These adepts weren't even here for work or harass. I mean, they'll try if they can. But they're mostly just here to kill creep tumors. That was cool. Yeah. Great stuff. All right. So now, what's the follow-up? 8 gateways? Yes. 8 gateways. An immortal. And a couple of disruptors. Now, normally when you go for a gateway push, when you go for like an 8-gate all-in on 2 bases, I mean, it's a build we don't really see all too often anymore in StarCraft 2 because the Zerg players have gotten very good at dealing with it. Usually, you also do follow it up with like a Twilight Council and either charge or maybe glaive the depths or maybe even blink. This is just going to be a ton of units. And I guess Astrea is going to try and Zerg his Zerg opponent, if that makes any sense, you know? He's going to try and overwhelm him with a lot of stuff. Now, he is going for the speed upgrade right here, so the Prism is going to be... yeah, it's going to be able to deploy those disruptors that are currently inside of its belly. I don't know how it works with Prisms. I guess they're technically being warped in all the time. Anyways, I guess it's like a black hole or something. It can teleport shit around. Anyway, yeah, it's going to be very fast. Gravitic Drive is going to speed up this Prism nice and significantly. Colossus is a follow-up too. Are we just going to... no, there's no way we're going to expend. With 8 gateways, there's no way. You can drop the... yeah, you can do quite a bit of damage. This may be a little bit overly aggressive though. Prism though did move out of there. I think the corrosive bow actually did more friendly fire there than anything else. I think this is Astrea trying to sell a story to a potential scouting Zergling that there is a 3rd base coming up. It's Colossus as well without range. He's even doing a wall-in right now, I think. 1 probe gets snuck out. Yeah, okay. So he is doing a full wall-in right now in the Natural Expo. Zerg at this point has got a round of links right here on the left side of the map, but this is going to be one hell of a push. Lambo is sitting at 50 workers, which I do really like. I think that's the correct amount. Disruptor, by the way, being a little bit more annoying. So a probe right here on the low ground. This is a complete fake. This probe is like, I'm going to make a 3rd base. Totally. I'm totally just about... he's not making a 3rd base, okay? He's going for what seems to be a 2-base all-in. One disruptor hit can change the tide of this game very quickly. Obviously... ooh, that was a nice hit. Anyways, obviously, this is actually still a little bit dangerous, though, for Astrea. Oh my god, he creates a full wall-in right here with adepts. Losing the structure, no problemo. Just warping some more adepts. Obviously, though, this Protoss army is not as strong as it normally would be. Lambo is going Roach Ravager with a whole lot of Zerglings for support. I think, technically speaking, this is going to be an army that can definitely kill that of the Protoss. Lambo also, right now, has grabbed himself a significant supply lead, and that's really the strength of that Zerg eco, right? So, at this point, he's seen that the Protoss player decided to back off. He's snuck in a couple of more a couple more drones, and... alright. I like this a lot. I've been complaining about the Protoss versus Zerg meta quite a bit. And Astrea shows us what is possible when you don't go for the Stargate opener every single game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Stargate openers, but after seeing pretty much exclusively Stargate openers for the better part of 2 years now, it's kind of fun to, you know, see something a little bit different. So wait, are we just... Yeah, okay, he did go Twilight Council. We just haven't started up an upgrade yet. I think it's really important. There's the +1 ground weapons. There's the blink. I guess we're going to see the ranged upgrade for the Colossi soon enough as well. So we're going Stalker, Colossus, Sentry, Immortal, Disruptor, which is not a conventional unit composition in 2021 at all. This Warp Prism is also forcing the Zerg player to stay back, by the way. So as soon as the Zerg player were to move out, right, this Prism is going to go in and deal a whole lot of damage. Because Zerg is going to have to put a lot of attention on controlling their main army, so... I kind of like the Prism harassment here, forcing the Zerg to stay back and not really get too adventurous out on the map. Yeah, this feels a lot more like a strategy we used to play in literally 2010. Other than, I guess, Disruptors, which weren't a thing back then. And neither were Adepts. Hard to imagine a game without Adepts. Could have gone after the Creep Tumor there, but maybe a little bit overly ambitious. A Zergling did just now scout out that there is a group of units here on the Watchtower. Okay, Stalker is going to have to pay for this with its life. Maybe an Adept or two will also end up going down, but the majority of these units should be able to get out of there. Observer over here patrolling back and forth to make sure it can't be corrosive biled for free. And there's a couple more hallucinated phoenixes. Alright. Astrea, by the way, wanted to go for what seemed to be a 2-base all-in, but he looked at that army of the Zerg and decided, you know what, I'm better off just making a 3rd base here. Still think he could have tried dealing some sort of damage here. The problem, right, with ground Protoss is that there's a lot of counters for the Zerg player available. Roach Ravager is decent, but I'm talking specifically about Lurkers. Lurkers are very annoying for the Protoss player to have to deal with, and especially Brute Lords. Like, Brute Lords just completely can shut down a ground army altogether. If you get like 10 Brute Lords out... Usually we see about 6 to 10 or so. Yeah, you can shut down an entire Protoss ground army. Even with this many Blink Stalkers. I mean, the counter to Blink Stalkers is just more Brute Lords. At this point, though, none of that is happening. Zerg is very far away from that sort of tech. Here's one Disruptor Ball going forward. Good hit as well. Lambo is going for what seems to be an all-in. One of the Stalkers apparently also gets killed there by Astrea. Not entirely sure why I didn't care for that unit nearly as much as he did for the Prism, for example, but... Anyways, yeah, this is a very good set of force fields. This, I mean, it's a scary Zerg army, but there's really no way, right? This is a super sophisticated Protoss ball with all kinds of heavy hitters, whereas for Zerg, it's Roaches and Ravagers. There are 23 more Roaches coming up, but yeah, Lambo sees the same thing that I'm seeing, and he decides to tap out. Huh. I like pretty much everything about that game number 1. That was a bit of a banger. I mean, obviously a huge risk right there for Astrea, especially in the earlier stages of it. I mean... Say, for example, the first Overlord would have gotten a glimpse of the very first probe moving out. Lambo probably would have realized that something was a little bit off. Say, for example, the second Overlord would have moved a little bit further forward and not back towards the Natural Expo to scout for a cannon rush. He would have seen the gateways a little bit sooner. Say the drone that made the Natural moved on over straight towards the 3rd base or a little bit closer to the ramp. That game would have worked out completely differently for Lambo, but overall... I mean, Lambo is a pretty predictable player. What are we doing right here, Astrea? Are we gonna go Nexus first? Really? That is very greedy. Don't try this at home, guys. No, I don't think you want to do this on the ladder, but I love it in this particular series. If I was Lambo, I would have already gone for a 12 pool. But like I said, Lambo is relatively predictable in his playstyle, so there we go. Astrea, after proxy gateways in game number 1, goes for a Nexus first in game number 2. Now, I know there's going to be people watching this that are like, well, Zerg always go for a 2nd base right away, right? The thing is, Zerg can make a lot of units very quickly, and Protoss needs actual structures in order to be able to do so, right? They don't have that larva mechanic that allows them, you know, to pump out a bunch of stuff right away. Very risky start right here from Astrea, but I do actually think it makes quite a bit of sense. Let me put it like this, though. So, Lambo plays a relatively predictable style, but imagine like Astrea tried doing something like that against Dark. I made a video featuring Dark a couple of days ago where I basically went on and on and on about how Dark is a very unpredictable player. There's about 0 chance that Astrea would attempt something like a proxy gateway like that against Dark, because you don't know what Dark is going to do. He could be going for a pool first. He could be going for a strange Overlord scout pattern, because I'm sure he sent his Overlord in different directions every single time. It's one of those things that might accidentally keep Dark safe, and it's something that you can exploit against someone like Lambo. Obviously, Lambo is not, you know, incapable of mixing it up, but he does play a very efficient style of playing Zerg, and he'll opt to go for the same strategy more so than not. Anyways, Lambo actually recently made it to the grand finals of the next tournament. I think I featured this in a previous, or I mentioned this in a previous cast featuring Lambo as well. Either way, he made an awesome video about it that I highly recommend you go ahead and check out. I'll go ahead and post a link to it down below in the description of this one. Very fun video, explaining his full mindset going into, one of those big StarCraft tournaments. Anyways, let's see. So what are we going for here? Astrea, Nexus first, double gateway as a follow-up, and a cyber core as well. Second pylon inside of the main base, but very late gases. Look at these scouts as well. Going around here, making sure there's no pesky Zerglings. Canceling the shades too. Third base is coming up right now for Lambo. Yeah, he's just scouting around everywhere, making sure that there's no pesky Zerglings here waiting. Coming up. Random pylon going up in the top left-hand corner. There's still no tech structure here. Are we gonna go 2 more gateways? Huh. Normally, whenever Protosses finish up their cybernetics core, they go for the Twilight Council, the robotics facility, or of course the Stargate. Astrea has gone for 4 gateways, which is a build we used to see a lot back in the day. Again, 2010, 2011 or so. Third Nexus as well as a follow-up right now. Like, whenever we see 4 gates right now, we see it with Glaive the Depth openers. But there's no Twilight Council here, there's no Robo facility either. So it's not like Protoss can really go for a whole lot of aggression here, right? Very late on the gases here and then adding on additional gates. I guess this is just to stay safe? If, say, for example, this is a very quick third base, by the way. That was like, what, 340? Anyway, say, for example, right now, Lambo decides to make a ton of Zerglings to try and kill it. 4 gateways can probably pump out enough... Oh, careful. Can probably pump up enough units here to make sure that it doesn't... it doesn't work out. This is so weird, though, because at this point, Lambo sees the amount of adepts, and he's probably putting his opponent at this point on a Glaive the Depth all in. Because why would you make, like, 10 adepts here? Okay, what was that? Like, 7 adepts. And then... there's no way you're gonna commit with these adepts. There's no way. He's expecting Glaives to finish up. There's pretty much no way that he... No, he's not gonna commit. No way. These adepts can be killed by Zerglings. There's 20 more coming up. Obviously, every 2 Zerglings, though, that are forced out right now could have been a drone. So that's probably what Astrea is getting at right now. He's like, okay, well, if you wanna make Zerglings, that works out for me. Now we're going into gateways? Or, sorry, Stargates? 2 Stargates are coming up. Yeah, these adepts are just gonna die, though. I think he overextended here a little bit. More adepts from the left side of the map, too. This is the first time I've seen someone make 13 adepts by the 5-minute mark. And not go for the Glaives upgrade in a very long time. So wait, we have +1 flyer attacks coming up and 3 Stargates. Are we still just gonna transition right here towards Mass Void Ray? I don't think you can really go Phoenixes here. You could go Oracles, but that is very risky. Yeah, no, we're going Phoenixes, really? Double Star or triple Stargate Phoenix after a bunch of adepts? Huh. This is one of those strategies that theoretically doesn't make sense. You probably don't want to play it in your ladder games. But you can see that Astrea is not really playing the matchup here, but very much so the opponent. Lambo has got such a huge amount of links right now as well. I mean, there's more of them, yeah. He's got a lot of Zerglings for this stage in the game. Then again, though, is Lambo really gonna care about this? The problem is, normally if we see any Stargate units, they come out really quickly. The first Oracle arrives on the Zerg side of the map by, like, the 4-minute mark. The first Void Ray shows itself by 4 minutes, too. So Lambo, at this point, has no anti-air. He skipped Spore Crawlers altogether. He's going into an Infestation Pit right now. I mean, he's got 4 Queens, losing a couple already to the Adepts earlier. Was that the purpose of the Adepts, to try and kill as many Queens as possible? Because we did see 2 queens going down, which seemed a little bit sloppy to me. Alright, here go the phoenixes. They're gonna be scouted for the very first time right now. Okay, what do you do? Overlords will go down very quickly. There's a spore crawler as well. Queens can just be lifted up one at a time. +1 flyer attacks is gonna make these phoenixes way stronger, but this is gonna be so many drum losses. And in the meantime, I mean, normally, right, against Phoenix openers, Zerg will try and force the Protoss army to go back home by counterattacking. And that can obviously still happen, right? But there's a good amount of Protoss units still available. There's a shield battery over here too. Good Sim City as well. Plus, on top of that, Astrea could just make a couple of Void Rays if he really is threatened about an all-in from the Zerg. Huh. Charge is coming up. Still funny to not see Glaives here first. This is still a very vulnerable position, though. I wouldn't mind seeing a shield battery over here. I think it would make a lot of sense. Either way, Phoenixes don't really care too much about spore crawlers. There's 3 spores over here, but still a good amount of stuff here for the Protoss player stays alive. 9 workers in total. Honestly, not enough. Now, as much as I like what Astrea is doing here, Lambo is making all the right moves, it seems. He has lost quite a lot of stuff at this point as well, but his eco is good. 88 workers. He's not expecting this Protoss army to move out. What is this army even? It's a bunch of slow zealots and unglaved adepts with like a dozen phoenixes up in the air. Lurker Den, though, is about 80% of the way done, and once lurkers are out, this is going to be an army that will absolutely be destroyed. But the problem is, this is a scary force. Lurkers aren't out yet. 9 overlords, 10 overlords start up right now for Lambo. 11 overlords. Can we get it at 12? Okay, no, we cannot get a 12. This is a dead base, right? +1 melee also just about to finish up for the Protoss player. Kind of interesting that, again, he attacked right before those upgrades are done, just like he did with the Phoenixes. In the meantime, by the way, at the 6 o'clock position, a new Nexus was made. Zerg did not manage to force the council on that one. This is a bit of a head-scratcher, man. I haven't seen Phoenixes really ever. Like, well, I mean, not ever. I mean, I haven't seen Phoenixes really ever in like the last half year, it seems. Every once in a while we see them. But whenever I see them, they seem so good. Like, whenever I see them, I wonder why we don't see them more often. If that makes any sense. So Phoenixes are also a little bit funky against Hydras. Because Phoenixes deal bonus against a light, if I'm not mistaken. And Hydralisks are light. So like when you're running out the Hydras one at a time out of the cocoons, the Hydras just get trashed by the Phoenixes if they lift them up like that. However, if you get a good group of Hydras together, then all of a sudden the Phoenixes get countered by the Hydras. There's a strange dynamic between the units. Anyways, at this point, yeah, look at the resources lost right now for the Zerg player. Considering the small ecos this game that most players, or both players here have had, you know, up to this point, it's a very substantial difference. Ultimately, though, we do now see the Zerg player transitioning towards Hydra, Lurker, Roach, and probably with Viper support here eventually. This is an army that's going to be very difficult to kill for the Zerg, or for the Protoss player with a ground-based army. But I mean, it's not there yet, right? Like, we don't have the Lurker upgrades yet. I don't think we have any Lurkers yet either. Just Roach Hydra, though, also definitely not to be underestimated. There's no Observer in this army either, as far as I can tell. That Archon almost ended up dying. In the meantime, inside of the main base, huge warp in here as well. Seismic Spines, that's the ranged upgrade for those Lurkers, will be denied. At the same time, the Grooved Spines upgrade, which is the Hydra ranged upgrade, also will be denied. 2 huge structural kills right there by Astrea, big warp in. And threatening with the main army at the front. The main army at the front wasn't even really the main damage output. It was the warp in inside of the main base. This main army was just mostly forcing the Zerg, yeah, to go on over towards this location of the map with his entire force. And now all of a sudden, I like this position for Astrea quite a bit better once again. He's going to be forced, Lambo that is, to remake the Lurker Den. I guess he started up the Lurker Den before the Hydra Den. He needs to remake the Hydra Den as well, though. Yeah, okay, he starts up another one of those. Can you really push, though, with Roach Hydra without the ranged upgrade on the Hydras? I'm not so sure. Same for the Lurker. I mean, that Lurker right there is unupgraded. Storm at this point is done. Massive storms land on top of all of that Zerg army. Ay, 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 ay. Astrea transitioning towards the fleet beacon. +3 here will eventually finish up. Zealots at the 12 o'clock position as well, getting some work done. Zerglings on the left side will be killed. He's going to try and target fire down the hedge. Okay, the hatchery is 21 health left over. But that is going to be killed later on, right? I'm pretty sure it will be. Anyways, Lambo, probably very frustrated with this series. He's going to soon go up against the Skytle's army. Just at the point where he's... Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's like, what, 4 Lurkers? Anyways, he's finally... Like, Lambo, that is, he's finally going to have an answer to the ground army of the Protoss. But by the time that he's going to have enough stuff, I'm pretty sure there's going to be like 5 carriers out. At this point, Astrea can't make any more carriers because he's maxed. So I guess that could be a saving grace. Okay, that base is super dead. Are those the random leftover adepts from the early game? I think there might just be. Not a whole lot of static defense over here, though. Yeah, that 9 o'clock base definitely won't live for very long. Once again, though, Phoenix is here just going full YOLO. They're trying to open up some more supply to be able to, yeah, produce some more units. So, even though he's going very aggressive right now, this is mostly Astrea trying to trade out those Phoenixes to the best of his abilities. Pretty scary Roach Ravager hit squad over here, but I don't think it's enough. There's like 5 Immortals out. Those alone will probably make short work of that army. +2 Flyers are also already mostly done before the first carrier has even been spotted, I'm pretty sure. I'm not exactly sure if Lambo has seen one of the carriers at this point, but it's going to have +2 before too long, and that is one hell of an upgrade for those carriers. Ay, 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 ay. Triple Oracle right now as a transition. Astrea, what is going on? What has gotten in Astrea? I haven't casted a whole lot of Astrea games recently. Oh, okay, good biles there, but could have been all of the High Templar, I suppose. Astrea just barely noticed that in time. Why are we going for so many Oracles? Is it just for detection? 10 more Zealots are being warped in as well. This is very inspirational Protoss play, man. I want to like go on the ladder and do this sort of thing myself as well, but then I realize I'm not very good at the game and I will just get destroyed by standard Zerg builds. This is, I guess, when you're so comfortable with the standard that you're like, you know what? What if I don't play exactly standard, but I do something ever so slightly different to keep my opponent thinking, right? I still don't know. Yeah, he's seen the carriers at this point, but I still don't know how Lambo is planning to answer to those. He really needs, like, abduction, I guess, or a transition towards maybe some infestors or something along those lines. I would love to see a Dark Shrine, by the way. I think a Dark Shrine could change everything. Oh my god, he set up a surround! Okay, I want to go back. That was a really cool move. So we have Protoss units over here. This Nexus is just about to finish up, and what Astrea does is he only recalls the carriers. So the majority of this Protoss army is coming in from the top. Okay, now he didn't just recall the carriers, but he just recalled like half of that force. And then he creates like a surround. That was gorgeous. Huh. It's kind of funny how that is something we don't normally see, right? It seems like such a no-brainer. Recall the army, try and get a full 3-point surround there. Awesome stuff. Really cool. Alright. Now this could get a little bit awkward though, because the Protoss army currently is on the other side of the map, and obviously Recall is currently on cooldown. Oracles still have obviously their Stasis Wards ability, which is very strong. Lambo though, rather than actually trying to force this Protoss army to go back home with a Recall, has decided to go home himself. Careful now, Astrea. A lot of the Lurkers there are getting some very good hits in. Yeah, Lurkers are incredibly strong. At the same time, though, Zerg has done a bunch of damage on the other side of the map as well. New base was acquired here, of course, by Astrea on the right side of the map, so at the very least he still has a lot of locations to mine from. But Lambo has enough of an army to force this Protoss army to go back home. 3 more carriers, though, are coming up. Hydras can be the answer to carriers. The problem is that usually you can't really target fire the carriers, and instead you're gonna have to play against the interceptors, and it's a very difficult army to actually control. Okay, huge storm right over here on this ramp as well. Another massive set of storms right there, forcing the Zerg army to back off. I mean, at this point, the carriers could come in and just kill all of the Hydras. If the Hydras are this low in health... Okay, there's 5 carriers, soon to be 7, I suppose, or maybe 6, because Astrea can't actually produce much more because they're so heavy in the supply count. Either way, okay. Storms? No storms. Storm! Not quite happening, actually. Lambo right now on the offense. I actually like this, okay? One of the carriers almost gets killed. I mean, it doesn't have a whole lot of interceptors. 2 more carriers coming from the main base as well. I don't think there's enough Zerg. No, those Immortals and Archons are dealing so much damage, and once the Lurkers are gone, just a bunch of Zealots can actually change the tide of battle already. There's another Storm ready to go as well very soon. Interceptors are being picked off one at a time. I like that Lambo is backed up right there to the safety of those like high grasses, right? To make sure that the Protoss doesn't have full vision of how much Zerg there actually is. But at this point, there really isn't much. There's 110 supply of Zerg, but I feel like a lot of it is just, yeah, low health Hydras, and Astrea wins game number 2. All right, match point right here for Astrea. We are on Berlingrad. What are we doing now? Standard pylon? I think it's going to be a standard pylon. Are we going to be going Nexus first, Astrea? I don't think you can. I mean, you could, but... the question is Lambo really going to do anything against it, right? Is Lambo really going to try and counter you? Pretty sure Lambo is just going to go hatch gas pool and then transition towards the good old standard. Yeah, it's just going to be a gateway this time around on the low ground. Then the probe will move across the map as well. Lambo once again, scouting a little bit further ahead. Making sure that he could move on over towards the 3rd base, but still decides to grab the natural here regardless. All the moves that Lambo is making here, right? Like, as far as his strategy choice go, they're the most optimal versions you can go for, right? Meaning that, like, everything Lambo here is doing is theoretically the most optimal version. Over the last year or so, though, we've really seen in top-level StarCraft that playing the optimal version of a build might not actually be the best play, which theoretically doesn't really make a lot of sense. But realistically, in a lot of these games, it just simply means that your opponent knows exactly what you're going to be doing, and therefore you become predictable, right? Whereas if you play something that's, say, like 98% of the efficiency, so an ever so slightly different build, your opponent might have to respond with something that they are not so common with either, or not so familiar with, and then, you know, they might be playing at like 95% efficiency. Anyways, it's kind of cool. This is a development we've seen happen over the last... Yeah, I really want to say like the last year or two, where players are purposefully playing builds that don't really make a lot of sense. Where players are playing a strategy game. I know, crazy. Anyway, so far though, everything Astrea here is doing, or yeah, everything is doing right here is normal. Pylon, Gateway, Nexus, 20 supply Cybercore, double gas. We'll see what kind of tech he wants to go for. So I guess it's a Stargate. Should be a Stargate. Yep. Completely normal build right here from Astrea. So this is the good old standard. Lambo, by the way, with these builds that he's playing, one of the absolute highest ranked ladder players in the world. Because, yeah, playing this sort of like stock standard style on the ladder is incredibly powerful. Let me put it like this, like the way that Astrea is playing in this series is he's playing a series, right? Whereas Lambo is like playing 3 individual Zerg versus Protosses. If that makes any... Yeah, I think that's probably a decent way to describe it. Anyways, if you are looking to improve in the game though, I highly recommend you look at Lambo's replays and copy whatever he does, because he's extremely good at just playing a normal game. Probably the most stock standard Zerg player right now. I'm trying to think. Cero has been mixing it up quite a bit. Raynor mixes it up quite a bit as well. Rogue and Dark obviously do so too. Yeah. Lambo definitely a player you can... I mean, he's been very successful recently, so... Anyways, only one Zergling here available. Yeah, normally you don't commit with the Adept here, but if there's only one Ling... Already getting one of the... Getting one of the... Oh, God, 2 drones and a Ling right there. And getting the Adept out? Ay, ay, ay. That's very sloppy. That's really not what you want to have happen. Pretty much perfect play right here so far by Astrea again. Look at the worker count right now. I mean, well, when I started that sentence, there was a 6 worker advantage for Astrea, which is just huge. So now it's a normal game. This should be something that Lambo is a lot more familiar with. It's gonna be a Void Ray followed up by an Oracle. Couple more Adepts right here on the right side as well. Third Nexus is coming up very quickly. And notice there's absolutely no defense. Very risky once again by Astrea. Normally you're supposed to leave the Void Ray at home or these units at home. Or both. Astrea's like, well, seems to me like you don't really like making a lot of units if you don't have to. I'll just try and deal some damage on your side of the map and we'll see how it goes. And again, a few workers will end up going down. Yeah. It's little things. It's little things that add up. Oh my god, 5 workers already at the cost of nothing. This is before the Oracle shows up. And obviously the gamble here is that if there would have been 20 Zerglings out, these Adepts would have died and the third Nexus would have died. So again, maybe not something you actually want to do in your own games. But something that is definitely very strong in this series. Adepts will have to scoot a little bit further back, I think, but they'll be fine. Okay, looks like the Void Ray right now picked up a couple of worker kills as well. Alright, so the follow-up right now, by the way, from Astrea is not a Stargate-based army. He's now transitioning towards Twilight Council with Charge, as well as a Dark Shrine. We'll see if he decides to go for Archons, or if he's actually going to be making Dark Templar as well. Astrea playing a different strat every single time, and I like it. Here's another drone kill. Yep. Astrea's looking so strong, man! Like, we always talk about how good, like, the European players are, but Astrea is looking mighty powerful here. I think he's like 22, maybe 23 years old. Which definitely shows that Astrea has, you know, he's got some years left in him, right, as a pro gamer. I mean, obviously we see many pro gamers peaking around that age, but Astrea is looking like extremely good here. He's looking quite a bit better than Lambo. And like I said, Lambo just made it to the grand finals of a premier tournament, taking out some absolute top tier players in the world. I haven't really caught Astrea making a whole lot of mistakes so far in this series. USA. 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 Sorry, I did it for you. I know that like some of the Americans watching this right now are getting very excited. They're like, yes! Here go to 4 Dark Templar. Man, I want to cast more Astrea games. I actually always try, right? Like, I always look at replays from like Neep and Scarlet and Astrea, like people from North America. Because they play a little bit differently than the other guys do. And yeah, it's cool. I like it a lot. Nina is obviously very good as well. I know Future is very good. There's like a bunch of really good players from North America. Anyways, we even have Shadow's Triton right now coming up for Astrea. So that's the Dark Templar Blink ability. One of the most underused abilities in this matchup, in my opinion. We see it all the time in Protoss versus Terran, Protoss versus Protoss as well. Protoss versus Zerg, not so much. Lambo at this point sees that something is researching, though. And the Dark Shrine only has 1 research. So he knows that something's going to be weird very soon. Yeah, there's additional Overseers coming up. Good scout right there from the Zerg. The thing is, though, even with detection in place, and even with, like, units there, yeah, Zerg is going to be maneuvering their army around a lot, and Astrea can always come back in for a little bit more later on, right? He doesn't need to go in right now. If he knows that Zerg has been thoroughly occupied over here for some time, trying to deal with the main army, it's just like that main army distraction from earlier that we saw in the previous game, where the warping in the main base dealt most of the damage. I think we see a similar situation right here, although those corrosive balls over there are very nice. Archon goes down as well, but here are the drones. A little bit of misplay right there from our Protoss. Okay. Taking a ball right there on the Prism too, but it will stay alive. Oh yeah, sure, get the Roach Warren, mate. No, I think he's just going to try and deal a bit of damage to the workers and then get on out of there. Overseers are too slow at this point in the game without the Overlord speed upgrade, so... DTs managed to get him out of there. And now we're transitioning towards Disruptors. Now, the main counter that Zerg has to Disruptors is usually Vipers. Alternatively, Lingbane can also be pretty good if you micro well enough. This is either going to be a dominating advantage here for Lambo coming up very soon, or an absolute disaster. It's kind of hard to say. Disruptors are just about to pop. The Dark Templar have morphed together into Archons. Archons obviously can hold a lot of those Banelings. So let's see how this goes. Here's Disruptor number 1. Huge detonation! Second Disruptor also available though. Most of the Zealots have already been blown up. Another massive hit right there from that Purification Nova. Battery overcharge, keeping these units alive for such a long time. And Astrea, walking on a bloodbath right now, is keeping the majority of his army up. Yeah, picking up the weakened Protoss units, sure, a little bit of micro middle of all of this. There's another Purification Nova from a third Disruptor that came rolling out of the net. 2 more are just about to be ready as well, and I don't really see how this is, yeah, gonna work out for Lambo. Lambo says that was an epic move command. Definitely not the perfect control right there from the Zerg player that we are used to, but Astrea playing a very fun series of Protoss versus Zerg. Well played.